Hello and welcome to Joyride with your hosts, the metaphysical moms, Tiffany and Carrie. Joyride takes you on a spin through all things spiritual and soulful, including holistic healing, energy work, and personal development. Now, here are your hosts, Tiffany and Carrie.
Hi guys, welcome to Joyride. It's Tiffany and Carrie, and we are live on Facebook. We're doing round 2. We had a little technical problem the first time, but hello, my dear.
Well, hello again, darling. How are you?
Awesome. How are you? And welcome Neal Hamil to the studio.
Mr. Hamil's in the house.
He's our metaphysical man.
He's a unihorn.
Something. I don't know.
Someone said that one day. They said, why? It was a child. It said, why is it not
Unicorn.
a unihorn?
Unihorn.
Makes much more sense. Children are so clear.
They are
so clear.
They see everything right.
They do.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
We have to introduce them. If you've been in Houston more than 5 minutes, you know who Neal Hamil is because he has been, you've been here, you're Houston born.
I am.
Baytown, right?
Baytown.
Baytown?
Yeah, shout out to Baytown.
Hey.
Been in and around the scene here for a long time, and you for a long time had Neal Hamil Model Agency
10
here.
years. Mm-hmm.
And then went on to do agencies in New York.
Ford and Elite. And, yeah.
Wow.
Big time all over the world. So.
I mean,
It was
that's
fun.
amazing. Oh, and he has a podcast right after our show. That's how we've
That's how we all became friends.
That is the hallway
Hallway
conversation between shows. So
Right.
your show, Neal and Libby. Hello to Libby. I know she's not
Libby,
here with
hi,
us
I miss
today.
you.
We miss Libby. We wanted Libby
It's
on the show.
weird being here without her in the studio.
Yes.
I know, right?
We
But
traded
we're
her
all
in
part
for
of the
2 for
Radio
today.
Brave family.
We are. We're cousins.
We are cousins. I
Yeah.
like it.
I like it
But
too.
the great hallway conversation after the show, because we're always talking about aliens and ghosts and
No, wait,
paranormal and
No,
Yeah.
we aren't in the hallway.
I
You
am.
are. You always have these stories that I finally said you have to come on the show, and you very generously agreed.
You're the only 2 people I ever talk to about that stuff.
Is that right?
Well, because people think you're crazy.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
See, I think most people would know you as Neal Hamil in the business and
Right.
social and
Right.
the model world, and they wouldn't know that you like all this.
I am
paranormal
fascinated
stuff.
by all of it. And
It's fun to talk about.
it is. And, particularly the alien thing. I mean, I've lived in 2 very haunted houses and all of that. We'll talk about it. But some of which was funny and some of which was terrifying. But the alien thing, I have studied it for 17 years.
Wow.
And I am mad about the topic. And yes, let me start over. I don't believe, I know
Yeah.
for a fact that we are not alone and never have been.
Never have been. We believe the same thing.
Okay, so
We do. We believe in aliens. We're out. We're out of the closet, and we're going to talk about it today.
I have this poster that I bought for my son, and it's just this little poster, and it has it was the I can't say the word Hubble
The Hubble.
the telescope. It was the deepest picture ever taken in space, and I think there are something like 84,000, and there are all these dots, and 84,000 galaxies, and that they said it's the equivalent of taking a drinking straw that is 8 feet long, and looking into the sky, and that is the picture. So 84,000 in that little tiny spot. So how can we be alone?
We are
That's
not
crazy,
alone.
and we've all seen things.
Even there are stories in the Bible that discuss this, touch on it a little bit. But 73%, I think that's the right number.
That sounds right.
Of the
It's a
people
really-
in the world believe it, acknowledge it, aren't afraid. If
Believe in
aliens wanted to
aliens.
harm us,
Oh,
please,
that
they
fast.
would have. So I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. Even the Vatican, the Pope has even said, "Yeah, we're not alone." I'm not quoting him, but he said something. The Vatican has its own space observatory, their own everything. They have been.
They watch the stars.
They
on
watch the
purpose.
stars, and they have their own thing that I forget what it's called. But if you really there's a lot of information out there that's very easy to access.
Yeah.
And I think what the problem is, and serious ufologists and so forth will tell you, that it's unfortunate that there are so many people that put fake stuff out there.
Right.
But it's like anything. You want to talk about fake news. There is a lot of fake news around this topic.
Yeah. On purpose.
Yeah, and part of it is our governments, not just ours, others, that are doing that to misinform people.
Well, but I also think that there has been a disclosure, and I think our country is one of the last ones because, anyway, there's a lot of stuff behind that, and I'm not sure what all we can talk about, but it is.
And stay alive.
And stay alive without the helicopters above our heads, our
Right.
houses. But it is, Dr. Greer, he
Yes.
is phenomenal, and he's been pushing this disclosure, and I mean, look him up on YouTube because he's fascinating, and he's just it's this colonel, this admiral, all these people came
Sure.
out and said, yeah, this is what we know and this is what we've seen.
Well, you've
And-
had firsthand accounts from folks up in space, right? Can you talk about that
Yes.
without naming any names? To protect the
I cannot and would not because that's not fair to them. But yes, I have had conversations with members of our space program, gentlemen who have traveled on,
different things.
yes, astronauts, and absolutely.
So okay, so that day that we discussed that, you had said that this is what you told him, but you never said if he acknowledged, confirmed, denied.
Well, Neil Armstrong said it when they landed in the Sea of Tranquility. He went from the public link, which people all over the world can listen to.
One
you can,
step.
there's a live feed from the space station.
Sure.
When there's a technical problem,
Right.
it's because there's another craft either docking or trying to, or what, it's right there. But Neil Armstrong switched to the medical channel and said, they're here, they have landed, these massive craft have landed on the rim of the crater, which is what the Sea of Tranquility is, and they're watching us. One of the first astronauts that went up in the Apollo program, after they got out into space, said on the live feed, there is a Santa Claus.
Is that code?
That was code, but it wasn't very
Wasn't
well
very
thought out code,
It wasn't very well.
especially since it
cloaked.
was like July or something. But
That's
the space program and they're such brilliant people and they're scientists, and we love NASA particularly because it's here in our
backyard,
hometown.
yep.
And Houston is called Space City.
My grandfather actually put all the phone lines in the original
Mission
control.
He did.
Pretty
He
cool,
knows
huh?
a thing or two.
Oh, a couple
You
things.
could probably listen in.
If only I could channel him, we would be good. Anyway.
Oh, I would love that.
I know, right?
But NASA, it's funny because when they did a dinner for Apollo 13 on its anniversary, this was like 2 years ago, and George Clooney came as representing Omega Watches, which
Yeah.
sponsored this dinner. And it was really cool. It was in an airplane hangar that had been completely decorated to look like the moon. So you were dining on the surface of the moon. It was so cool.
That's cool.
And across the table from me was the communications director for NASA.
Was it Chuck?
I don't remember his name. And I said, well, no, welcome. So here's the deal, okay? I'm just going to put this right out there.
Dun.
I know. And he said, oh, no, oh, well, good for you. What do you know? And I said, I know about it all. and he's like, are you sane? No, you're not a sane person. He didn't say that. I said, I just want to let you know that I know all about the whole alien and thing, and I just want to tell you that you're not getting up from this table without answering some questions. And he smiled very politely and said, that is not something we discuss.
That was not.
And
a
I said,
deny.
well, you may as well, because
We already know.
We all know.
a gazillion people are discussing it and know the truth.
It's like a king with no clothes.
You said right. You said, what are the reasons this is treated the way it is, and with misinformation and so forth? I think it's two things. First of all, I think that there are people that are so narrow-minded that they think that this would challenge the concept of God.
Or that.
All right? So you have churches and religions that are going to fight this hard, because it's really kind of insulting in a way, and governments too, because governments don't want their power challenged.
Right.
And the concept of not disclosing and not discussing and acknowledging, I think, is offensive, because people are smarter than that. People are more enlightened than that. People are more in tune than that. And people in 2017 have the internet.
Well, and a lot of people are having their own experiences.
Or their own experiences, yes.
But to quote Men in Black,
Yes.
the people, the person can handle it, the people can't, is
Right.
what I think
It's
they're
Right, well,
mass
that's
hysteria.
perfectly put.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would cause any kind of mass hysteria.
You don't think so?
No, because not in this day and age. I mean, you know, there was the situation in Los Angeles in the late 40s, early 50s, where a craft came down very low and they were firing at it, and
Well, was that a false flag, though?
I don't think so.
Okay, so for you guys, false flags are there is this group that really thinks that if disclosure is about to happen, our
Right.
government would take it into their own hands, and they would have a false flag where they make it look like it's an alien that comes down and it kills a bunch of people. So everybody would be upset and want to fight it.
And scared, yeah.
Instead of saying, they
Benevolent.
protected us, they're kind, they're this, they're that. They're here to help
Hopefully
us.
they have a way of communicating to people, humans, in a massive way,
Consciousness, yeah.
that everyone would be calm. They are so, I mean, obviously far ahead of us in the overall scheme of everything.
How do we know there's not one right here?
Well, there
but they
could be,
vibrate
you
at
know,
a different
someone.
place?
Yes, there
Yes.
could be.
I've met many people. I think you're from another
Like
planet.
that guy at
Right.
Starbucks. There's a guy at Starbucks on West Gray. I think he's from a different place.
Well, he could
I'll
be.
describe him afterwards.
You know, time travelers and all this kind of thing, and that I haven't really studied very much. I've seen some pretty convincing
Have you seen the photos?
photographs and video
Yeah.
of people that weren't there and then are there.
Right, and they have this cell phone, or the ones with the cell phone in 1942.
Right. There's a
Yeah.
that's a very famous picture.
See, would you know that though? Because you're in that world, in the way that I would think that you could spot a fake, like they implanted it or they did something weird
know,
to the picture.
There was a family in England, and this is probably the 60s. It's a very famous story. A guy takes his daughter out, and she's sitting on a hill with a blue sky behind her, sitting in a field of green, and he takes her picture. He takes 3 pictures. Click, click, click. In the first one, it's just the daughter. In the third one, it's just the daughter. In the middle one, there is don't know what, but it is
Something.
A UFO.
a human or
Oid.
humanoid
Yeah.
of some kind. And it's very famous. And Kodak offered a lifetime supply of film to any person that could debunk that photograph. And to this day, no one has been able to debunk it.
No way.
So when you say there could be someone standing right there, definitely in talking about ghosts, that's very real. We are also not alone in that regard. There are spirits around us
Absolutely.
everywhere. And I think when you open yourself to it, that's when you can see or experience things
Right.
that others don't. If you are just shut off to it, I don't think that whatever is going on in that dimension bothers.
Right.
They're like, well, they're not switched on, so let's go
They
talk to
can't see
people
us.
who are switched on.
We have a number of medium friends who come in and just channel friends, loved ones, spirits,
Stevens
and
and
talk to
Pruitt.
another dimension that's happening right here,
Right.
the timeline. So there are a lot of people I think that are getting more tuned in, more open, having their own experiences. So
Sure.
Well, the veil is thinning, but there was
The veil is thinning. I think you're absolutely
Well,
right.
and they had, so someone said it, I read this last week, and this really made sense to me for those that might be afraid of this, is that when you keep your vibration higher,
Yes.
We're having a fire drill here in the studio.
fire drill.
Okay.
When you keep it higher,
What did we just say?
We were just
are
talking
not
about
ever alone.
there's the helicopter. No.
Right.
But when you keep it higher, then what happens is they can't see you because they're right. Oh, so if we vibrate high and if we're upper dimension,
Right.
we can see down, but they
Right.
can't see up. So if they're like lower vibrating entities, they can't see you. So just know that if fear is very low based, and
Right.
so the more afraid you are, the more they see you, and the more they feed off of it. So tell someone that's afraid to not be afraid. Otherwise, they may glom on more. I mean, that just makes you more afraid. I realize it would.
Yes, I think that's
really hard to do.
As someone told me once.
We have to go.
Do we have to go?
Do we have to go?
Hold on, everybody. We're to Facebook Live. They're doing a mandatory fire evacuation.
Fire drill.
No. He said.
Hold on,
keep
producer's
going.
going to go check on it, and we'll
Okay.
take on it.
Okay. So
Never
this is
a
the
dull
first thing.
moment in this place. This is
Yeah,
just
I think that
crazy.
alarm was set off by.
I think, yeah, we changed.
We didn't even go there. I didn't.
We
I
didn't-
mean,
no, we haven't.
I have restrained what all I have to say. So it is. Yeah. So we're not going to go there. Don't
Well,
worry.
if you see smoke, let us know on
Right.
Facebook Live. Hi, Carrie. Hi, yeah, Miss Carrie Mina.
Carrie
She
Mina.
is in Vegas with her shiny show.
Wait, Carrie, are you still there? I thought you were back.
I'm not sure. She's reporting live. She's just checking in from Vegas. So saying hello to our friends.
Are we okay?
We're going to stay. We're going to stay and run through a
It's
fire
like the
drill.
Titanic.
So.
It's been nice knowing you. We'll stay here
Right.
and lay it down.
Well, it all could have ended in a far worse place.
Oh, my
You know
God.
what I'm saying?
That's right.
Well, I know you've got a speaking engagement here in an
I
hour
do.
to a luncheon. You're the keynote speaker for an hour. So hopefully
Yes,
you'll
for
get-
Houston Community College, their Department of Fashion and Interior Design.
They have a great program.
They do. And the woman who runs it, Suzette Bremer, is she's so brilliant and just a wonderful person. And so this is their annual luncheon called Passion for Fashion that raises all the money for their scholarships.
Oh,
So it's really great, and it's a very high-powered group of ladies that get involved in this every year, and honoring Melissa Midhoff, and this year's co-chairs of the event are Courtney Hobson and Elizabeth Peterson. Fine people.
happy to
I
give a
love
shout out to them.
that. Shout
Yes.
And I
out.
love how we can straddle both worlds. We can be here.
Here.
Really full on in this world and have a foot in the spiritual, metaphysical, other worlds. And we have a friend, David McCready, who is teaching us how to astral travel so we can go visit these other dimensions and open communication in a very benevolent way. And
Yes.
how to use that information to live a better, more abundant, creative,
Right.
generous life here. So
The key word to everything we're talking about is benevolent.
benevolent. That's what we're all about.
I love that.
Yes,
We're not
because
tapping in for any other reason.
no, and
No.
I think if you approach these topics just being open and calm, and just like whenever I'm going to sit down and spend an hour or two on the computer researching or reading or watching videos and so forth, I just kind of sit down in a very calm space. And I just say, okay, here we go. And we're just going to experience what we experience. And some of, as I was saying, some of it clearly is not true. It's manipulated or whatever. And,
Yeah.
but you will see a lot of things that are just undeniable. And one of the most impactful speeches I ever heard anybody give was the former minister of, in Canada, they have one guy that is over the Air Force like we do, Minister of Defense. Totally legit guy. He served in the Parliament in Canada for many years. And when he retired, he requested to address the Canadian Parliament. And in a live recorded broadcast, he said, "It is time to disclose." And he really put it all out there.
I'll have to
He talked
find that
about
recording.
motherships and the size of motherships, all this stuff. And I think his name is Paul Hellyer. That's very easy to find. It's on YouTube. You can watch it very, very easily.
I'll find that.
But it is very cool, and he is not kidding.
He's not kidding.
He's obviously sane and not trying to scare people. And in fact, I think he says something like the only thing to fear is the misinformation and manipulation and cover up.
Yeah,
Right. That's
absolutely.
Because the
right.
truth is just the truth, and that's that.
Well, and I think that that has to just weigh on them. I mean, if you know this and you know that you've held this secret all these years and you
Right.
feel that it is not for the good of mankind, so good for him for being so brave.
Right. And, we've had 3 presidents that have acknowledged Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter.
He actually saw
and
credit.
Dwight Eisenhower.
Wow.
Eisenhower apparently had a meeting with some leaders from non-terrestrial leaders. And it's very widely documented, and it's a fascinating story. He was in California, in Palm Springs, and he disappeared, which is hard for a president to do, even back then. But he disappeared to one of our bases. And he was gone for like 4 hours, and then all of a sudden he came back. Obviously, his Secret Service detail, his immediate detail, knew exactly where he was because he was on an American base.
Right.
And apparently he had this meeting, and there were deals made between the parties and powers that be. And again, this is all very much part of the public, in the public domain. And when he reappeared in the press, who followed the president, asked him where he'd been. He said he had an emergency root canal.
Is that the best they could
That's
come up
pretty
with?
clever. I hope you're going like that. Oh, and it still hurts a little bit. And I'm still speaking funny. But, when the American presidents do, and then you have American presidents like Bill Clinton, whom I loved. However, he said, well, I asked about that alien stuff, and I was told it don't exist, and I wanted to know, and all this. I'm like, oh, shut up. You are being completely irresponsible and a jerk right now.
They were at Corey Good talks about not Corey Good. Dr. Greer talks about they were at the meetings. I mean, they were at all of this stuff.
Well, I think, and when the new president leaves his inauguration and does the walk back to the White House, when he walks into the Oval Office for the first time as president, I'm pretty sure that some guys come in and say, everybody out. And they get a one-on-one with that guy and say, here's the deal.
Yes.
And at that point they go, oh shit, what did I decide to do?
Right.
And the vice president step in.
Right.
I'm out.
Help. But it irritates me when people treat it like something to make fun of or poo-poo it. Because if you do any kind of research at all.
Well, the History Channel, Ancient Aliens.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
There's so many great shows now that
Giorgio
are well documented.
Sintukaitis
Yes.
and Kurt von Innigan.
There's some great historians, scientists, researchers who are putting out some really good material. But
Yes.
The
Hollywood's
giants.
done a number on scaring us, with all
I
of
think
the
that's by design.
Independence
It is.
Day, all of the
Hollywood.
alien.
I'm gonna definitely have the Men in Black or a helicopter over my house after this. But
Okay, wait. Do you really want to say it?
yes, I do.
Okay.
Hollywood and the government work together.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that is the easiest
Propaganda,
way
yes.
to communicate something like that. And every time another major alien movie comes out, I think, okay, we're about to have disclosure. And then they don't.
Then it twists.
But Putin told Obama, if you don't do it, I'm going to. I'm ready to tell the story.
And what happened with that? I remember that.
I don't know.
It kind of
Mrs. Gorbachev said, like, in front of their parliament or whatever it's called, something very black and white, definitive about the extraterrestrial situation. She knew. The Russians knew, everybody. And, when you look all the way back, people in India, they had the Vimanas. This has been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and people in India don't think twice.
Yeah.
They see lights in the sky and they're like, hey.
I'm coming.
See, but
next
you know,
week.
all the CGI now that's created out there, you can easily dismiss any, Facebook live video or anything because it's so, our
easy.
entertainment is so realistic.
Right.
It's so true.
It's hard to discriminate what is a fake and what isn't.
Well, Men in Black. I mean, do you think there is a Men in Black department?
Oh, there must
And
be.
Will
for
Smith
sure.
is there because I love him.
We all love Will.
I know. He's just so handsome.
He is.
Okay, and so what do you think about Tom Cruise? Why doesn't that man age? I just saw the trailer for his new film.
He's an alien.
He's hot. I mean, he is still really good looking. I mean, he's not that old, but I redefine what old is nowadays. But he looks fantastic. So I wonder if he's an alien.
Good for
He
him.
was with Hubbard, so who knows about that? But
You
all
were
right, I
talking to
digress.
someone who is not a Tom Cruise fan.
Really?
No.
You sound like my husband. Okay, moving on.
Anyway,
Moving on. Next.
I only like people. No, I'm not going to say it.
Benevolent.
Benevolent.
So there's a great story. There is an Indian tribe, and I'm sorry I can't think of the name, and they're in Canada, and they talk about the star seeds, and that came, and there was a craft that crashed, and they just knew they couldn't get off the planet. I don't know why they couldn't call their folks to come and get them, but they ended up breeding to live. They melded basically with the Earth folks, and
Right.
and that is just their lore. I mean, they know that, everybody knows that, and that's what they're taught. And
The
so-
Indian tribes in North America, those people are so wise, and we are so stupid not to listen to them because they have so much to share. And, maybe that's why the white man came along and treated them so badly
with the pox blankets.
because they wanted them to not share publicly out in the world what they know, but they're so brilliant and very, very, very beautiful people and very spiritual people. And just goes to show you, it has nothing to do with here's the church and here's the steeple, open the door and here are the people.
Right.
I'm not anti-religion at all, but that goes to show you something, that these people, they didn't have churches, but they're
Earth was
very
the church.
spiritual.
Earth was spiritual.
Mother
There
Earth
was no
was their.
separation.
It's just who they were.
It was
Right.
all
They didn't
connected.
carve
in
out a
spirit.
day in the
great
in the
spirit.
week, and
Right.
not that everybody does. There are a lot of folks out there, but it is. Someone asked me yesterday. Wendy, our friend that will be on the show next week, or she was on the show. We'll air her show soon. She was asking me. She said, "Religion. How do you wake up from that? I mean, when the dogma is so strong," and I really didn't know how to answer that. But it is so true. It's like, how do you walk both? And is it I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go too far down that trail, but that is a good trying to figure out the
Well, I think
spirituality.
having your
with-
own experiences and what feels good, what feels right.
but it's fear, exactly.
It's
So many
it's
people
all
fear it.
overcoming the fear. So if you're just joining us on Facebook Live, we are talking with our good friend Neal Hamil, who's known for all his social business modeling world, but he has a different side to him that we have discovered that we were playing with today that likes paranormal, interesting ghosts, spirits, aliens, and you've had so many of your own experiences. We wanted you to come on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It's funny because my mother was very intuitive, and she was also extremely devout Christian, right? And privately, she would say to me, "It's impossible we're alone." And yes, I believe, and what's the problem?
Right.
And also on the paranormal thing, if my mother ever said something was going to happen, it happened. If she ever said, "Be careful of that person," I listened. And they usually did turn out to be rotten, So she was kind of like this very interesting little character. And I don't know if she just recognized that I was kind of open, so she would say things to me she might not say to someone else or her friends or whatever. But she was so wise, and so I was never like scared of in my adult life of what was around me, and I've had some very bizarre experiences, and I think I got super tuned in when I was 19 years old and living in New York City modeling. I would be walking down the sidewalk and I would sense something really dark, not good,
Not benevolent.
not benevolent.
Not benevolent.
And I would all of a sudden just see this person, and I would say to myself, and there it is, and just cross the street. And I didn't even want to pass people like that on the sidewalk.
How does it feel to you? For me, it feels like slime, like someone's dirty.
It's dark. You feel the darkness that is encompassing this
Radiating.
person. And when my nephew moved to New York as a young man, I said to him, when you sense something, don't ignore it.
Trust it.
Because in New York City, people can get to you so easily and so quickly. Someone passing you on the sidewalk can hurt you, and they can do it so fast that no one even sees it. And
You're
then
talking spiritually,
I'm talking,
energetically.
well, that physically, but
knife,
then the
yeah.
spiritual thing. And so I started paying close attention. You have to, because it's part of survival. So, you know, when you're in that mecca of just people everywhere, and that's the physical, people you can physically see who are living, breathing, I think.
Most of them.
You have to sharpen your intuitive skills. And from there, everything that I'm talking about with you two today that was the source of it. And that's why that I started tuning in to a little higher vibration, or whatever you want to call it, just a hyper awareness of others. And then I lived in a really haunted building, and the light did not go off right away. I never sensed it until I did. And the minute I did, it started, and it would not stop.
Was that here in Houston or
That
New
was
York?
in New York, and it started with doing like setting something down and turning around and going to do something else and come back, and that object is no longer there. It's over there. One morning in my dressing room, I had pegs that you pulled out between the closet doors. And while I was waking up and having coffee and blah, 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 I would go to the section that had suits, and I would put one on the peg. The section that had shirts, boom, like so. And then I would shower and so forth, and then go back and dress. One morning, I did that like I did every morning, and I went back, and the shirt was gone. Not only was that shirt gone, that shirt never reappeared, ever. Gone into the ethers.
Do you know how rare that is? I mean,
It
it's one
is
thing for it
rare.
to
It
be moved.
scared me at first.
He liked it and he wanted
Well,
to wear
I was
it.
like, wait a
Somebody,
minute.
yeah.
At first, I thought, where's my shirt? And then,
You knew what
I was
happened.
like, oh. And
You're welcome.
But you thought,
Right.
it's where did they put it? Not,
right, and
it's
it
gone.
never, ever, ever, ever reappeared. That's so
Very poltergeist.
That very poltergeist, and then some very strange things started happening. You've heard of shadow people? Well, then the shadow people showed up, and I would
Like in
just be
Ghost.
sitting watching television, and I would see 3 figures appear and walk down the hall. One night I had guests, and a shadow person, whatever they are, appeared, came across the floor, went up this wall,
Like walked.
and came across the ceiling, and then went back across the ceiling, and then went back across the ceiling again, and came down that wall and walked across the floor. And my guests were like, what?
Oh, they could see it too.
Oh, everybody saw it. What the hell was that? And I said, I'm not quite sure, but I think it's some kind of a ghost.
Did they stay? Have another
They
martini?
stay there like, how can you just, you've seen them before? I said, I see them with some regularity,
That
but
would
I
be
just
frank.
try to ignore them at this point because it is a little bit scary. But then I moved back to Houston, and my house was incredibly haunted by the husband and wife who had built the house in the late 50s. And he had died in the house next door. And she did not die there, but she had a huge presence in life. All the neighbors hated her, said she was the meanest person they'd ever met in their entire life. She's a very mean, bitter, angry person in life. Her husband apparently was very sweet. The very first time something they showed themselves was a friend of mine was doing something out in my garage and came in and said, "Who's that old guy that was in the garage watching me work?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he said, "Oh, well, there was definitely an old man who just stood there and watched. It must be a neighbor." I said, "I don't know. No idea." And then over time, when these people would appear, I asked one day, the neighbor next door came over and she said, "I just wanted to come and say hi and tell you I love what the renovations you're doing and everything. The house is looking so pretty." And she was an interior designer. And she said, I said, "Well, come in." And she said, no.
Wouldn't come across the doorway.
She would not come across my doorway. And then she told me why. And then she went and got a picture of the husband and wife. And I am telling you, it was crystal clear.
It was them, huh?
It was them. And the wife did really mean things. She pulled my hair constantly pulled my hair.
I want to stop here and say that the point that I take from this is just because you cross over into death does not mean you strap on your wings and you dust off your halo. I mean, you are sort of who you are.
Well, some spirits can get stuck here in this astral plane,
but I wonder
not knowing
about
that they're dead or still being attached to their home or their unfinished business.
No, she knew she was dead because she's pulling your hair. She wants you to
get out of her house.
She made it very clear. And
how long had you lived here at this point?
I had not lived there very long at all, but I had a lot of renovation done before I moved in. And so after priests, psychics, mediums, you name it, I had so many people come and trying to calm my house down.
Yeah.
And one of them said, "Oh my God, are you talking to these people?" And I'm like, "Yes." I say, "I can see you." And they said, "Oh, stop.
You've energized them.
Don't talk to them. Don't acknowledge them." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of hard." Every single guest that ever spent the night in that house, I would never say anything to them until they said something to me. And they'd say, "Who's the redhead lady in the pink nightgown standing by my bed?" when I woke up. And I'm like,
"That's Mrs. So-and-so.
That's Mrs. So-and-so." And so it was just nonstop. And just one of the first physical things that happened was the closet and the bathroom were connected, and there was a little room that had shelves, and I had all the towels all folded and stacked. I went to bed, got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Everything was cool. Woke up the next morning, in the middle of that room, in a pyramid, was every towel, every sheet, every single thing that was on a shelf, dumped in the middle of the room.
Stacked into a pyramid.
Yes.
A messy pyramid.
Kind of a messy pyramid. And I was like, holy shit.
Were you scared or were you just...
How do you
I was
feel?
a little freaked out. I
Bewildered?
kind of stood there and then just got a chill,
Yeah.
you know. So that was
And
kind
yet
of
you
a
stayed.
crossing point, yes. And that was one of the earliest events that happened that made me know that I had a problem. That's why I started getting people who clear energy and all this kind of thing to come.
And did any of it work?
No. One of the most successful mediums came in my front door and immediately vomited
Oh.
and said, "This is unbelievable. You have a house full of very, very bad spirits. And this is not going to happen in one day. We're not going to get this under control." And so she came back several times and finally gave up. So,
What was the reason for having a house full of bad spirits?
I don't
You're
know. And she
super
said
positive.
this woman has brought people
She's
from.
attracted that
Yeah.
negativity.
Her
She has brought them to torment you. She's not doing this.
She wants you out.
She wants you out of here. Well, she got her wish. The last night I spent in that house. Well, you know, the weird things would happen. Like my bedroom door would open, and then it would open a little more, and then it would open a little more. It wasn't like a continuous sweep, and the house was perfectly level. It was not. It was.
But pulling your hair, I mean, that's
And pulling
getting,
my hair,
that's egregious.
constantly pulling
Yeah.
my hair, or touching me, you know, on my shoulder or my arm or wherever. So not the last night, but the week of my last week there, I was in the bar making myself a nightcap, which I never do. I never drink alone.
She drove you to drink.
I don't know what, I came home from being out for the evening, and I don't know why, but I was like, I'm going to have a nightcap. And I'm in the bar pouring a drink, and right here in my ear, I felt her, and I felt this black, heavy, evil
Wow.
right next to me. And she got right in my ear and said, kill yourself.
Oh, wow.
Why don't you just kill yourself?
No.
And I was like, well, you're dead. So,
Do you want me to haunt you?
right.
But you can see somebody who would be vulnerable or susceptible or
right.
depressed
It was
or whatever.
so, but it was,
Just-
oh
You're going
God,
crazy
that
and- yeah.
unnerved me. I'm like, now she's talking to
yeah,
me.
now she's being horrible.
Yes. And so that week, every night was a nightmare. The house was just horrible. Every place there was no positive energy in that house.
I wonder if she fed off your fear too. Because
Well, I think, yes.
I mean, how would you not be afraid? But though you didn't leave, you weren't about
I did
to
leave
budge.
because the last night I spent in that house, she or they went around and knocked on the walls around my bedroom, all four walls, constantly. Knock, 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 knock. Just, ugh. And then rattled doors and just harassing me. Then I heard in the hallway a little girl whimpering,
Oh no.
going like this.
Oh, she was doing it.
Oh. And I was like, what the hell? And I mean hell. This is from hell.
Yeah.
If there is a hell, this is from it.
Oh, Neal.
And so I was like, no. We are not
Fine, you
doing this. So I got up and opened the bedroom door and looked down the hall, and of course the house was quiet. So I went back to bed, and I'm lying there trying to go back to sleep, and now I hear a cat. Meow, meow, meow. Now this cat is in my bedroom and meowing on this side of the bed, and now meowing on that side of the bed.
Did she watch every scary show out there to get her information?
I know,
Or
so
every
weird.
childhood phobia you've ever had. they
Right,
bring
oh,
out
that
down
was
to-
so. Oh God, I really was
poor
like
you.
about to come undone now. And I said something like, "Get the hell out of my house, you evil, disgust." You know,
So and so, yeah.
did what I was told not to do.
Engaged.
Engaged, and then this is what did it. I get back in bed, and I hear a growl,
Ooh.
a deep growl.
Like a demon.
That was not like an animal growling. I don't know what it was. But when that crap started and it came down the hall, came in my bedroom and this growl was going, I was like, you win. I'm out of here. And I never spent another night in that house.
Holy smokes, you sold it?
Oh yeah. Isn't that just so that was very unfun.
See, that is, I always fear that. I mean, I know we're not supposed to be afraid, but I don't want to bump into those kind of
I don't want
folks.
to growl.
Yeah, I don't want a demonic growl.
I don't want a little girl crying, a cat meowing, and it's something growling. That's it. That's the end
And you're
of it.
trying to be normal during the day and go on to business
I totally
meetings.
was.
And at night you're having to
Yes.
come and deal with
So
all
did you
of
call
this.
a friend and say, okay, do you mind if I come spend the night at your house?
Well, you know,
I gotta
this
get
is
out of
another
here.
thing I failed to mention is I'd had a very small operation on my foot. I had a bone spur on my heel. This procedure is no big deal at all. The wound on the back of my heel would not heal. It wouldn't heal. I can cut myself right now and tomorrow morning come back and you'll be like, where'd you cut yourself? Wow. I heal like that. I have really weird DNA.
Superpowers.
But my doctor is always like, you are my only patient at 57 who doesn't even take an aspirin. I'm on nothing. He's like, all your function, you function, your body it's crazy. You're so super healthy and you eat wrong, smoke, drink, don't get enough sleep. So the surgical, the place on my heel, which was, like that long, would not heal. So one day my assistant came to my house to drop off some papers, and I opened the front door, and she went, and I said, what? She said, have you looked in the mirror? And I'm like, no. She's like, she turns me to the mirror in the entry hall, and I was green, and I looked dead. I was ash-colored dead. I looked dead. And she said, I'm calling 911. I'm calling an ambulance. I said, don't do that. Just let's go to the emergency room. You drive me. And all hell broke loose when I got to that emergency room.
What happened?
I got very lucky because a friend of mine who happens to be a doctor at that hospital was, for some odd reason, leaving the hospital through the emergency room and saw me on a stretcher and said, Neal? And I said, yes. And he's like, wait, whoa, hang on. What's going on here? And they're like, he just came in, and he's like, I got this. He totally took over. They admitted me. They started shoving stuff in me. They put a PICC line, not one, two, into my heart in the operating room that minute. The next day he came to see me and he said, you are about 4 hours away from being dead. There are 7 deadly infections that you can only get in a hospital. You have 5 of them.
What?
And he said, your foot is you are on the verge of gangrene.
But you didn't even know?
No clue.
You didn't hurt? You weren't running a fever?
It didn't feel good, but I was like, why won't this heal? Why won't this heal? I went to the doctor 3 times. My foot isn't healing. Well, I don't know what to tell you. Are you taking all the the antibiotics? I'm like, listen, I'm doing everything I know. By the way, I heal really easily, so something's not right. And this very experienced surgeon just would look at my foot and go, stay off of it. Get some rest. Take your medicine. I ended up being so incredibly sick that it took 7 months, and I had to have chemotherapy. Yes. Every morning I had to drive to Memorial Hermann. They would take blood. They would examine my blood, analyze my blood, mix the chemicals for the day, push the first bag through my 2 PICC lines, and then send me home with the other 3. And every single bag made me so sick. And they were hitting me with so much antibiotics.
But they weren't working, so that's why they had to...
They did, but it just was such a slow process, because by the time that emergency room visit, the infections had gone into my bone marrow, every organ of my body, my brain, every single part of my body.
Oh, Neal.
Had 5 lethal infections zooming through it. So thank God my assistant came to my house that morning and turned me around, because the doctor said...
Now, how soon after that did you leave the house, and how quickly
so
did you heal?
I'm trying to recover from all of that
this house?
nightmare stuff, and all this is going on.
Yeah.
It was not good.
So how much do you think that has to do with it?
I think it has everything to do with it.
Just
you were so low.
The negative vibe in there.
Yes, that my body was just... Whatever it was took over completely. And when that woman said to me in my ear, kill yourself, I was like, you're not going to have to tell me that twice. I'm out of here. Because I wasn't sure that they might not make something.
Well, sounds like they were.
They were
definitely.
But I will say that this seems very rare, and I don't know how, how much this happens to this degree and why it would happen to you, because you seem such a strong, vibrant, full of life,
Thank you.
light kind of
Benevolent.
guy. Benevolent. And maybe they were attracted to that light. I don't know.
That's interesting because one of the people that came, an energy person, said, here's the deal. Out there is darkness. And you operate and function on an extremely high vibration. Your light is extremely bright.
Like a bug zapper.
Right. So you have to be careful because you're going to always have those seekers are going to see your light in the darkness and they're going to make a beeline right for you.
People too. I bet people are really drawn to you.
For the wrong reasons. And I try so hard to
Do you shield?
Well, I don't, but I probably should. I just utilize my intuition, and I really count on my mother, who's now on the other side, to protect me.
Give you those insights, like, be careful of that one.
Yes, and I'm like, talk to me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's really funny because before she passed away, I spent the last 5 days of her life with her. And about day 2 into the 5 days, I was sitting next to her bed talking to her, and I said, listen, when you go to the other side into that next dimension, I want you to come and see me. I want you to materialize, and I don't want you to ever go away. And I mean that even in a physical way. And she said, it wouldn't scare you? And I said, scare me? You're my mother. No. Yeah. Because my father and her mother and her father were coming to see her already. And her nurses, and particularly the hospice nurse, said, your mother is seeing your father, and I'm just going to tell you that if you see him, don't be freaked out because he's come for her. And he's transitioning her. Yeah. And it's a very peaceful experience for her. It's very comforting to her. And I talked to her about it. She said, oh, yeah, he sits right there. And the night she passed away, my sister and I were alone in the house. We'd sent everybody out because we knew it was coming. And we just wanted to be with her alone. And we were. But my sister is talking on her cell phone. And a piece of furniture right next to her moved, shook. And I said, did you see that? Did you hear that? And she's like, what was that? I said, get off the phone.
You're missing it.
Yeah,
and she hung up the phone, and I said, that's Daddy. He's letting us know he's here, and this is it.
Oh, yeah.
And 20 minutes later, it was all over. But I told my mother, I want you to visit me. So she said, and it won't scare you? I said, no. She said, well, there's probably some trick to it that you have to learn how to do.
Yeah, that's what I understand. They have to, on the other side, learn how to come back into this dimension.
She said, I promise you I'll work on it. And as soon as I can do it, I will.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She hasn't figured it out yet, I guess, because I haven't seen her. But
or in your dreams? Do you see her in your dreams?
Once she came for seconds in a dream.
That counts.
And it was actually funny because she was with her girlfriends in a room and they were filing out one single file, one at a time, just disappearing through a doorway. And she stood in the middle of the room and raised her hands and said, he picked me, he picked me, he picked me. And that was it. It's the only time I've ever,
Maybe you glanced in.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I visited my family in my dreams. They come and visit, and I can hug them, and it's a real full contact hug. It feels real. It's amazing. So your family, they're there. She's there. Yeah.
I made out with Robin Williams last night.
In your dream?
He pops in. My God. She sees spirit too. She's very
intuitive. You see Robin?
Williams? He did. One day I was doing all this research because I just love him. I love What Dreams May Come, which by the way is a phenomenal book, and I love him, and he just makes me laugh, and my kids laugh, and it's so inappropriate, but it's so funny. And one day I was looking, and he did some wonderful things with Christopher Reeves. Like, he picked up the tab when he got sick, and anyway, he's just amazing. And he popped in.
Wow.
But I freaked out, and he went away. But every now and then, so last night I had this dream, and there were a lot of people there, and he was very happy. There was this woman, kind of down on her luck, and I saw her, and I hugged her, and he said, that was very nice. So he hugs me, then he kisses me, and then we made out. Good kisser, by the way. So, yes. So I made out with Robin Williams. Really, it was a dream.
It was a dream, Charles.
Yeah, it was just a dream. No, I told him, and he's like, oh, fine. My
Astral
husband
sex is a thing.
Well, yeah, but he's very engineer, very Rice, very lawyer, and so he's like, honey, I believe you believe it. That's all that matters.
I believe that you believe that.
That's about it. So, okay, so when are you taking us to Alvin to check out the UFO?
Okay, we have to do this because
Road trip.
Alvin, Texas is a UFO hotspot.
By the way, thank you for telling us that about your mom. That was beautiful.
Yeah, it really was.
I love talking about her. So Alvin, yes, it's a hot spot, and a friend of mine who's from Alvin was abducted many, 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 many times as a child, and one day is riding her bicycle on her street in Alvin, Texas, and she just goes and drops her bike and walks in the house and goes in the kitchen and tells her mother, Mommy, come look outside at the spacecraft that's over our house. And her mother was like,
I'm busy.
Okay.
Oh, she went
so
out.
she did, and she said, this woman, I'm telling you, as straight as a nail, said over our house, and the houses around us, the size of a couple of football fields, was an alien craft. And it did not make a sound, and it just moved very slowly, did not move a leaf on a tree, just out over our neighborhood and out over a field, and I knew exactly what I was looking at. She said, I could see very specific details of this craft. So I knew that my daughter wasn't kidding. And I believed her. I never discounted that she said she felt something was going on at night. And I have a couple of other friends who have had experiences in Alvin. Very successful photographer was down there shooting a friend's wedding. And driving back to the city, was on a farm to market road and all alone driving his car like 11:30 at night. And all of a sudden he sees on the side of the road, just off the shoulder of the road, an alien craft sitting right there. He said, I knew in an instant what I was looking at. So he parked his car, got out and took pictures of it.
Did they show up on the photos?
Oh, yeah. And another car started coming down the road, and they stopped and got out, and they're like, is that what I think it is? He goes, yeah, it is. That is a craft from outer space, and I'm taking pictures of it.
Do you have copies of these? I would love to see them.
No, I'll ask him
See if he'll share them with us.
Yes,
Because I want to put links to everything we're talking about on our website, which is joyrideshow.com, and look for Neal's blog page, and we'll put links to all of these interviews and talks that we can find.
And everything we can reference.
And just know that you're not alone. And if you're having experiences or visions, or if you're having paranormal activity, know you're not alone. And I think having this conversation helps make it more normal.
I hope so.
That's our goal.
And that you can still be
normalize it.
professional and successful and still have these experiences and miraculously heal, even from such a deep, dark hole that you got taken into.
Definitely.
For whatever reason.
Right.
You full back, healthy, amazing.
Yes.
I always laugh. It is. At some point, someone will make me a tinfoil hat, But it is. I do live a normal life, quote unquote. I mean,
Right.
not everybody would agree with that, but
Right.
I've got kids and carpool, and
Sure.
And then I duck into the bathroom to walk my friend through this. She needed me to walk her through to meet her guide, and with a bunch of fifth graders around, and so it works. It just works. And look at you. That's why I've been wanting to say that is why you just intrigue me so much. Is that I was worried about coming out of this closet, and
Sure.
because I live around a lot of kind of people that have
understand.
very set mindsets, and
Totally get
and
it.
it's like, but you do, and
You're like, I've got.
Yes, but I don't talk about it because that's
do
why I was
now.
like, when you said come on the show, and we do our hall chats after you record and then we record. I was like, yeah, definitely. And I told Bobby, our producer, when I got here this morning, I said, if I start sounding like a crazy person, give me a sign, because I don't want people to think I'm nuts. But I also think it's important for people to talk about these things and share their experiences, and you can believe it or disbelieve it. That's up to you.
Right. That's exactly
Well,
right.
I know you're producing some top secret TV stuff coming up, network. So maybe an Alien Encounter Network show.
My
gonna
friend
plant
Cynthia
that
Neely is
seed.
writing a brilliant screenplay.
Really?
It's all based on a true story.
We can't wait. We'll tune in. Thank you for joining us here
Thank
on
you.
Joyride,
Thank you.
Neal. It's
You're
been a
lovely.
pleasure.
Mwah.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you.
Thanks,
You'll have
Bobby.
a great speech today. See you guys on Facebook. Bye.
I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful